When do you think you will meet God? Tomorrow? When the problem changes? When the healing comes? When the bank account steadies? When the child returns? Not then. Now. Now you see, if God is God, God is not a date on your calendar and not a better set of circumstances. God is the presence that is presence, the life that is life, the action that is action, already here. Do you see what I'm getting at? We have lived as if the Holy One were out there, ahead of us, waiting to be reached by miles of effort and months of endurance. But God isn't waiting. Only we are waiting. We are waiting for the symptom to shift before we will rest, for the phone to ring before we will trust, for the door to open before we will recognize that there is a house. So let's make this a premise of our class. A premise as sure as arithmetic. God is not an event you arrive at. God is the now you are standing in. It makes no difference what hour it is by the clock, or what headline is shouting at you, or what the body is reporting. Does it make any difference, really, if the grace that is life is already functioning? Later has no power to produce God. Later can only produce more later. Only now reveals what is already so. You can feel the habit in us, can't you? We postpone peace until the email comes. We postpone power until the opposition quiets down. We postpone God until the room looks holy enough to deserve God. That isn't humility. That is delay dressed in piety. And it keeps us blind to what is operating here and now. Stand ye still. Not tomorrow. Stand ye still now. The battle is not yours, but God's. Not when the enemy retreats, but when you retire from being your own God, your own defender, your own clock watcher. Now, I'm not asking for emotional urgency. This now is not strain. This isn't a race. This is spiritual urgency, which is simply recognition, quiet, clean, unhurried recognition. Be still and know. The door is not at the end of the corridor. The door is where you are. If you were to ask, what if nothing is actually postponed but my seeing? You would be near the heart of it. What if the only thing delayed is your recognition? Treat this scientifically. A principle does not become itself later. 2 times 2 is not waiting for Friday to be 4. God, as creative, maintaining, sustaining presence, is not waiting for your condition to improve before being God. We are not trying to move a reluctant deity. We are letting the veil of later fall from our eyes. And in that falling, the now that is forever stands revealed. So, in this room, in this breath, take your hands off the future. Let the thought come and go, and be still. Here I am. Here God is. And that is all that is necessary for the beginning of demonstration. Why does later feel so spiritual to us? When I'm better, when I'm worthy, when I understand more, then I'll pray rightly. Must we condemn sincerity? Certainly not. But let's be honest with ourselves in this room. That kind of talk is not humility. It is postponement in a religious costume. It says, I am protecting God from my unworthiness. But underneath it is fear protecting itself from God's immediacy. Do you see how later becomes a refuge for fear? It offers a safe hallway where we can keep pacing instead of stepping through the door that is already open. It makes no difference what the calendar says if consciousness hasn't shifted. Thursday can be as blind as Monday if we cling to delay. There are, really, 2 ways of living. As a petitioner trying to reach God, or as one learning to notice what is already functioning. The petitioner imagines distance and time. If I plead enough, improve enough, correct enough, then God will act. That is a ladder that never ends, because you keep adding rungs named better, cleaner, holier. The other way doesn't climb. It opens. It says, wait. If God is principle, creative and sustaining, then the action of God is not waiting for my performance. It is waiting for my recognition. Do you see what I'm getting at? The sun is not withholding light until you apologize to it. You have only to lift the shade. It makes no difference whether you schedule the lifting for next week. Not a beam enters until you open your eyes now. Postponement produces strain because it turns prayer into effort, religion into bargaining, and life into waiting rooms. You know the drill. If you will do this, I will do that. As if God were a merchant with a counter offering grace by the ounce to those with proper currency. That is nonsense. The strain comes from assuming you must move a power outside yourself, that you must persuade omnipresence to be present. And so you tighten, you time it, you count days, you watch symptoms, you measure progress by inches, and all the while you miss the one act that ends the fatigue. Recognition. Stand ye still. Not idle resignation. Holy stillness. The battle is not yours, but God's. When you make it yours, you must fight it with minutes and muscles and mind games. When you let it be God's, you cease from bargaining, and you rest in principle. Now you see, later feels pious, because it grants us the illusion of control. We can keep editing ourselves, rehearsing lines, promising reforms, so that the encounter with the holy is always near, but mercifully not here. It is safer to plan to be spiritual than to be still. But planning is not prayer. It makes no difference that you vow a new practice for next month if, in this breath, you refuse to be quiet. Do you see how later keeps the heart busy and keeps grace theoretical? If waiting is the disease, then our idea of prayer must be re-examined, because the common model requires waiting by definition. If prayer is pleading with a delayed God, then delay is baked into our devotion. That is why the habit must be broken at its root. Prayer is not the art of improved asking. It is the art of present awareness. We will take that up now, the end of persuasion and the beginning of recognition, so that in this class, in this moment, the waiting rooms close and the presence that is presence is allowed to be seen. Let us stop right here and draw the line. Any prayer aimed at trying to get God to do something is nonsense. I know that's blunt, but it has to be said in a room like this. To pray as if God were sitting somewhere in the clouds, inactive, waiting for your eloquence or desperation, is sheer stupidity. Do you see what I'm getting at? It assumes the creative is not creating, the maintaining is not maintaining, the sustaining is not sustaining, until you press a button marked urgent. That is not prayer. That is superstition with religious vocabulary. God is principle, creative, maintaining, sustaining principle. You can't call on principle to become itself. 2 times 2 does not wait for your fasting to make 4. The sun does not hover over the horizon, trembling for your approval to rise. When the tide is out, we do not go to the shore and beg the ocean to remember how to breathe. So it is with spirit. It makes no difference whether you cry or compose the perfect sentence or promise a better you by Thursday. You are not moving God. At best, you are disturbing your own peace. At worst, you are reinforcing the lie that separation is real. Prayer, then, is not persuasion. Prayer is realization. It is the quiet turning within until the false sense of distance dissolves and you know that presence is the actor here, the life here, the only law operative. Be still and know that I am God. Not be noisy and convince, not be frantic and bargain. Be still. Stand ye still. The battle is not yours, but God's. Now you see, when you rest from argument and lean into awareness, what is already acting can be recognized, and in that recognition, the form of the need begins to answer itself without your strain. Think of it this way. There is a live current in the wire behind your wall. You do not telephone the power company each time you want light and plead for electrons to remember their duty. You plug in. You flip the switch. The current does not begin because you touched the switch. Your touch makes an opening for what already is. Prayer is that opening. Not turning on God, God is on. Turning on receptivity. When I learned that, my prayers changed from, "Please do," to, "Father, I thank thee that thou hast heard me." And the very atmosphere of trouble softened, not because I had persuaded a monarch, but because I had ceased producing a fog. I tell you from experience, and not because I ever humanly deserved it, that when prayer becomes recognition, answers appear without theatrics. Letters of gratitude have arrived before requests. Healings have been witnessed before I could form a plea, simply because in the silence, the actor was seen to be God already acting. So it is, and therefore, if God is always functioning, the only possible variable is not God and not the world of effects. It is the channel. It is consciousness. Next, we must see how that consciousness becomes transparent, how grace that never delays can be seen without obstruction. God fills all space. That must be our starting certainty. Omnipresence is not a doctrine, it is the fact of being. Yet look around. Why isn't this omnipresence doing more for this world? Now you see, it makes no difference how full the ocean is if there is no inlet to the field. The irrigation is the point at which abundance becomes visible. God fills all space, but it certainly does not do much for the world except as it finds expression through an individual consciousness. Do you see what I'm getting at? Grace is not late. The only apparent delay is the channel, and the channel is consciousness. Not that consciousness manufactures God. No. Consciousness receives, yields, lets through, and in that letting through, the already present becomes the practically visible. Let us be very clear, so there is no mystification here. By channel, I do not mean a personal power you cultivate, a little spiritual generator you wind up to drive outcomes. That is egoism, and it always collapses. Channel means receptivity, openness, transparency, an absence of self-assertion through which the pressure of omnipresence may register. Think of your radio. The music is in the room whether the set is on or off. Your tuning does not create the broadcast, it permits reception. So it is with prayer and with you. There had to be a Moses to say, "Stand ye still," a Jesus to reveal, "I am the bread," an Isaiah to announce good tidings. There had to be a John and a Peter, and there has to be a you. Otherwise, where would the light register? Where would the word be heard? God fills all space, but it finds form, help, healing, direction, only as there is an individual who can be still enough to let it announce itself. Why do I stress now? Because consciousness does not awaken tomorrow. Tomorrow is an idea. Awareness is an act. The shade lifts in the instant you lift it, not on a scheduled Thursday. You cannot tune the receiver next week and hear music today. It makes no difference that you vow a finer practice later. Until you are present, openness cannot occur. And so the habit of postponement is exposed again for what it is: the refusal to be quiet where you are. Be still and know. Not be still later, be still now. In this breath, the inlet is cut. In this breath, the field drinks. Mechanically, if you want a word like that, it is very simple. Agitation clouds the lens. Stillness clears it. The river is always moving. Your part is to remove the dam. You do not pump grace. You stop blocking it. When I have sat in silence with a need, not arguing, not designing, just consenting, I have watched the form align without my strain, because the presence was free to appear as guidance, as supply, as correction. So it is. Grace is not late. Consciousness is the place where the ever-present becomes practically visible. Therefore, if consciousness is the channel, our work is not more struggle. Our work is stillness. Stand ye still. The battle is not yours, but God's. You do not need to accumulate power. You need to cease resisting the power that is. Sit you down, quietly, until the sense of I must loosens, and the I am begins to announce itself. Then the world will have an inlet, and what already fills all space will have the joy of being seen right where you are. Stand ye still. The battle is not yours, but God's. That is not poetry for your wall. That is an instruction for this breath. Now you see, if God is the acting, sustaining principle, what place has warfare? With whom would you be fighting? An unpowered appearance? Evil has a way of destroying itself unless you take up arms against it. The moment you fight it, you feed it. The moment you make a power of it, it is stronger than you are, because you have lent it your belief. Do you see what I'm getting at? Non-resistance is not capitulation. It is recognition. It is the refusal to confer power on what has none. Be still and know. That knowing is the withdrawal of your battery from the false picture. And without your current, that picture fades. Let's look at life the way you find it on a Thursday afternoon. A pain strikes, or a report comes back with dark words on it, and instantly the mind reaches for armor. More remedies, more opinions, more frantic searching. Now, I am not telling you to despise remedies or to be foolish. I am telling you to cease warfare. Sit you down, quietly, until the inner agitation loosens and the presence is felt. Stand ye still. The battle is not yours. In that stillness, the sense of a power opposed to God thins out. It makes no difference what the symptom says if the grace of God is realized as the only law operating. And then, without your fighting, correction appears, as guidance, as inspired action, as rest. But not as your combat, as God's being God. Or take money fear. The numbers glare, and the calendar shouts due, and because of that glare, you want to bargain with God and hustle the world. Stop. That hustle is not supply. That is panic clothed as diligence. Stand ye still. The battle is not yours. In quiet recognition, you remember that supply is not coins. Supply is the presence that produces, guides, and maintains. It makes no difference whether one channel seems shut. The cause is not shut. From that recognition, a door you did not design opens, or an expense dissolves, or a right idea moves you to the one step that reveals hidden sufficiency. So it is. And relationship turmoil. Words like knives, accusations, silence that freezes. The impulse is to defend, to rehearse your brief, to return thrust for thrust. That is warfare, and warfare multiplies enemies. Be still. Withdraw the loan of your belief that this contention is power. The battle is not yours. As you rest the tongue and consent to presence, you find a softening that is not your psychology. You find that misunderstanding exhausts itself without your dueling, or the one true sentence forms in you and ends the storm. Evil destroys itself when you do not feed it with your resistance. It makes no difference. Hear that again, not as indifference, but as dominion. It makes no difference what the picture claims if the presence is realized. That is the pivot from panic to demonstration. Non-resistance is the beginning of demonstration because it ends the pretense of two powers and leaves only God to be God. And do not mistake this for passivity. Stillness is not sleep. Stillness is stance. In stillness, prayer is now, guidance is now, and the next right step comes as naturally as breath. In our next moments together, we must see exactly what to do the minute the need appears, so that your practice is no longer scheduled for later, but lived now. Stand ye still. The battle is not yours, but God's. All right now, what do you do the minute the need appears? Stop. Don't add a word to it. Don't reach for a phone or a promise or a bargain with God. Stop. Sit back inwardly. You may still be walking down the street or sitting at a desk, but within, lean back. Let the first rush of noise run out of itself. You need not push it out. If you will not feed it, it will spend itself. Be still. Stand ye still. The battle is not yours, but God's. Wait, not as one timing a cure, but as one consenting to presence. Wait until the descent of quiet assurance makes itself known. You will feel it. The breath evens. The shoulders let go. The sense of I must relaxes into I am. That is the moment prayer has begun. Now, in that stillness, replace petition with recognition. Not, please come, do, fix. No. Father, I thank Thee. Thank Thee for what? For presence. For the maintaining, sustaining principle that is already acting here, now. Father, I thank Thee that Thou art the life of this situation, the law of this body, the order of this household, the wisdom of this mind, now. Do you see what I'm getting at? You are not thanking for a future result. You are recognizing the actor that acts regardless of your clock. It makes no difference whether the picture has changed. The point is that you have ceased arguing and you have entered awareness. How do you know if you are praying or bargaining? Very simple. If your prayer makes you strain, you are still trying to reach God in the future. If there is breath being held, jaw being set, time being counted, stop. Return to now. Be still and know. Wait again for the quiet that does not need an outcome to be at peace. Peace is the seal. It is the inner signature that the channel is clear. Without that, you are just moving words around. But the thoughts keep coming, you say. Certainly they do. Must you wrestle them? Certainly not. Do not fight them. Do not rehearse counter-arguments. Do not drive them away with louder prayers. Let them come and go as wind across a field. Sit you down, quietly, and let awareness be light. In the light, moths have no work to do. Recurring thoughts exhaust themselves when you do not fund them with attention as fear. If one demands a reply, give it no more than this. It makes no difference. The battle is not mine. And come back to the recognition. Father, I thank thee that thou art. Now you see why this must be lived in the present. The minute you slip from recognition into object chasing, you are back in delay. You begin to wait on forms, and waiting on forms is postponement in a religious suit. To keep prayer present, we must also correct our gratitude. Not gratitude for the outcome that may come and go, but gratitude for the cause that produces, restores, and maintains regardless of the visible. We will take that up now, how to re-aim gratitude so that you never again live by effects, but by the presence that forever is. Must we stop being grateful for the good that appears? Certainly not. But we must re-aim the gratitude. Would you be grateful for the check or for the presence that generated it? Think a moment. The check can be spent, lost, burned up. The ink fades, the account closes, and if your thanks clings to the paper, your peace will fade with the paper. But if your gratitude rests in the cause, the creative, maintaining, sustaining presence that produces and reproduces, then even if the paper vanishes, the source remains, and with the source, fresh form. Now you see what I'm getting at? It makes no difference which envelope carried it or which hand delivered it, if the grace of God is with you. Does it make any difference, really? If the grace is present, supply can appear again. Guidance can select a new channel. Harmony can remanifest without your strain. Extend it beyond money. Health conditions change. Today's freedom may be tomorrow's twinge if you make a god of sensation. Possessions wash away. Fire, flood, thievery, have they not taught us that things do not secure themselves? Reputations shift with the breeze. The one who praised you yesterday may forget your name tomorrow, and if your gratitude feeds on applause, you will go hungry when silence comes. So it is. To be grateful for the body's comfort as if comfort were the power is as nonsensical as worshiping a thermometer. Be grateful for the presence that is the life of the body. To be grateful for the visible house as if lumber were security is childish. Be grateful for the law and order of being that builds, shelters, and if need be, rebuilds. I am not grateful that I have no scars. I am grateful that I have the grace of God that removes them. Do you see what I'm getting at? Mature gratitude is recognition. It is not a reaction to headlines labeled good news. It is an acknowledgement of the sustaining principle already functioning. Father, I thank thee that thou art, before the result, during the appearance, after the form has served its hour. Gratitude, rightly aimed, is steady because the cause is steady. Then, when a form departs, fear does not arrive. Does it make any difference, really, if the grace that produced it is still present to produce again? Stand ye still. The battle is not yours. In the silence of recognition, the seeming loss ceases to be loss. It becomes an opening for the same presence to declare itself anew. And here is the freedom. As long as gratitude is tied to outcomes, you must wait for outcomes to feel grateful. And there you are again, living on delay. But when gratitude is aimed at cause, waiting dissolves. You are no longer standing at the door, peering down the road for a package. You are resting in the warehouse of sufficiency, now. Be still and know. Gratitude becomes present recognition, not postponed celebration. In that recognition, the channel clears, grace registers, and forms appear and disappear without disturbing the peace that does not come and go. That is how we live out of cause, and that is why we are done with waiting for God. We are recognizing God now. There is a word, capitalized always, that has troubled many because they have mistaken it for ego. I. Not the personal I that boasts or fears or accumulates medals. Not the little pronoun that argues its case or guards its corner. No. This I is an activity, a presence, the very life of God announcing itself at the point of your consciousness. Do you see what I'm getting at? The I within is not a performer you coach to act holy later. It is the door through which the now of God is known. Be still and know that I am God. Not somewhere else, not someday, here. This I is the sanctuary of the present, and through it the grace we have been speaking of finds inlet into a life. Now you see why the Master spoke not in slogans but in identity. I am the bread. I am the water. I am the resurrection. Hear those not as banners to wave in a marketplace. Hear them as interior recognition. I am the bread, meaning the very sustenance here is presence realized. I am the water, meaning refreshment is not imported. It springs up in the awareness of God as life. I am the resurrection, meaning what appears spent or gone is quickened in the instant the I is known as the life of it. This is not poetry. This is practice. In the hour of need, you do not shout, "He is out there." You retire within and let the sacred I announce itself. I am the law here. I am the order here. I am the sufficiency here. The battle is not yours, but God's, and God declares himself as I. Treat this as something sacred, secret. Do not go out from this room and make a parade of it. Keep it bottled up, hidden in the heart, until it is a full-grown reality. Why? Because premature talk turns truth into a toy. The moment you chatter it about, you move from realization to recitation. You turn a living spring into a brochure about water. And then, when a need knocks, you reach for the brochure and find it dry. Keep this word under seal until it has proved itself in the dark where no applause can feed it. Let it heal your secret fear, guide your private decision, supply your unannounced lack. Tell no man. Yes, for a season hold it in Egypt until the babe is safe. Must we be ashamed of truth? Certainly not. We are protecting it from being traded for concepts. Realization ripens in silence. Speech spends it. Practice multiplies it. So learn the cadence quietly, without advertisement. I am the bread. I am the water. I am the resurrection. I am the light of this mind, the law of this body, the order of this household, now. If you hold it there, it becomes demonstration. If you hawk it in the street, it becomes argument. Do you see the mercy in this? If I am is the inner now, then every trial is not a punishment. It is a bell ringing you back to sanctuary. The body complains. The ledger scowls. The relationship storms. What are these but cues to retreat within and let the I be recognized? Stand ye still. Be still and know. Return again and again to the secret place where I is God announcing himself as the fact of this moment. And you will find that grace, having its channel, answers without delay. Now we come to the part that either undoes us or makes us. Trials, pressure, delays that sneer. What are these really? They are bells. They ring only to inform you that for a moment you have slipped into tomorrow, into forms, into warfare. Do you see what I'm getting at? A conflict rises, and instantly you imagine a future to be defended. A bill arrives, and you lunge for a form to adore. A report shocks you, and you rise to fight. All of that is postponement in disguise. It says, "Not now, later, when I have controlled the scene." But the truth is, each disturbance is a summons to the present, a nudge to reopen the channel. It makes no difference what name the picture wears, lack, pain, insult, if in that instant you remember, this is the cue to be still. Here is your operational cue, and I want you to practice it until it becomes a reflex. When pressure rises, do not accelerate. Slow down inwardly. The world shouts, "Hurry!" and you must answer, "Be still. Stand ye still." The battle is not yours, but God's. Don't add a counter-argument to an argument, a second fear to a first fear, a fresh rope to the tug of war. Withdraw the belief that there are two powers grappling for your destiny. Sit you down within until the breath evens and the sense of "I must" softens into "I am." In that softening, recognition replaces reaction, and recognition is the only action that belongs to you. Now the paradox. The appearance cries, "Urgent, act fast." But the true urgency is to recognize now. You cannot fix an illusion by running at its speed. You cannot clear fog by driving faster into it. You reduce speed, switch on the light, and wait for clarity to appear. So it is spiritually. You cannot hurry the sun to rise. You can lift the shade now. You cannot rush the tide. You can stand where the shore is and consent to its law. Any rush that seizes you to do something first is the old ladder. If I move quickly enough, God will catch up. Nonsense. God is the only action. Your part is consent. Non-resistance, then, is not passivity. It is protection of your inlet. Evil destroys itself if you do not fund it with your battle. The stinging letter arrives. Don't draft fire in reply. Be still until presence gives you either silence or the one sentence that ends the quarrel. The symptom barks. Don't arm wrestle sensation. Rest until you feel again that law operates as life, not as punishment. The delay occurs. Don't force doors. Acknowledge that supply is cause, not schedule, and watch forms line up without your strain. It makes no difference what form error assumes. Without your current, it has no endurance. Treat every disturbance as a bell to the secret place. Return to, "Father, I thank thee that thou art." Let the sacred I announce itself. I am the law here. I am the order here. I am the sufficiency here. Keep it secret. Practice, not parade. Do this repeatedly, and the very pattern of panic begins to atrophy, because the channel you are begins to prefer recognition over reaction. And now, having seen trials for what they are, reminders, not roadblocks, we must no longer leave this to chance. We will set a daily rule that holds you in the now. A quiet, steadying rhythm of recognition that ends the habit of waiting and closes the world's waiting rooms for good. So let us set the rule. Simple enough that you can live it. Strong enough to end waiting. First, short intervals of stillness. On waking, before the hand finds the phone, before the mind finds a calendar, be still. Sit you down, quietly, 3 minutes, 5 if you will, and let the rush subside until you feel the gentle authority of presence. Midday, stop again. You can do it at a desk, on a sidewalk, in a parked car. Evening, before sleep swallows you, return once more. No speeches, no bargaining, just recognition. Father, I thank thee that thou art. That is the daily rhythm, morning, noon, and night, a clearing of the channel so the grace that is always acting may register without obstruction. Second, re-aim your gratitude to cause. Before breakfast, do not inventory visible comforts as if they were your security. Say within, I am grateful for the presence that produces, maintains, and restores. At noon, when a result tempts you to dance or a lack tempts you to droop, keep thanks on the cause, not the form. It makes no difference which channel. The source is here. At evening, review the day and shift every praise from the thing to the grace that made it possible. Must we stop being grateful for forms? Certainly not. But we will be grateful as recognition, not as idol worship. Now you see? Third, refuse to fight appearances. Make this your vow for the day. I will not arm wrestle error. If a letter stings, a symptom barks, a delay jeers, my first act is stillness. Stand ye still. The battle is not mine, but God's. Do you see what I'm getting at? That one refusal ends hours of waste. In the pause, presence clarifies the one step that is yours, or shows you there is none. Either way, struggle has ended, because you returned to law. Fourth, learn to catch yourself. Anytime you hear someday, translate it into now. Not as optimism, but as recognition. Someday I will have peace. No. Be still and know peace now as presence, before any picture changes. When the money comes, I will relax. No. Consent to the sufficiency that is acting now, and let relaxation be the proof that you are resting in cause. When this is over, I will pray. Nonsense. Pray now. Prayer is realization, not a ceremony after the storm. Train your ear to hear postponement and cut it off at the root. Each someday is a bell calling you to the secret place. Now, and I promise you, the day will come, on this earth, in these lives, when more of us will cease organizing crusades against error and begin living by realized grace. The newspapers will not teach it first. Your life will. Homes will grow quiet, not with silence of defeat, but with the hush of recognition. In that era, and it approaches, men and women will not wait in spiritual waiting rooms. They will live from an inner presence that acts without delay. There had to be a Moses, a Jesus, and there has to be a you. You are early to it. You are the inlet. Now, for your going forth, keep this word sacred, secret, simple. Practice it where no applause can reach. I am the light of this mind now. I am the law of this body now. I am the order of this house now. I am the wisdom for this step, the sufficiency for this hour, the peace that passes argument, now. I am the bread that sustains. I am the water that clears. I am the door by which supply enters. I am the quiet that ends waiting. Hold it within until it proves itself. Let your life, not your talk, declare that God is now. Stand ye still. Be still and know. And go home with one instruction. Keep it sacred, practice in secret, and let demonstration, quietly, certainly, close every waiting room you have ever built.